Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about our inner selves and inner energy, and it's kind of abstract and awesome. This week's topic comes from Levi Lockwood, whose exact topic suggestion will be in the description so you can read it, but said that they just got done watching a video of Dancing Rabbits where he mentioned his younger self, and so their question is, how would we define our inner self? Is it young and passionate, or ancient and wise? How do those things relate and feed off one another, if at all? And what would our personal energy reservoir look or feel like, and what are the characteristics of its gatekeeper? For example, inner self, inner child, natural self, collective unconscious, carnal self, or whatever you call it. A bit of an abstract question, have fun with it. So I found this topic and put it on the list at the end of March, at which point I was actually doing a week focusing on the idea of self, so I journaled a little bit about this. A very little bit. I wrote that it was sort of hard for me to do work about the self. I wasn't really getting anything, and I thought that that was because I feel like I've spent a lot of my life getting to know myself, and I know myself very well. And then I said, although perhaps I don't know myself, capital S, very well, my higher self or my inner self. And I said a few nights ago, Monday, I was going through and saving new collab topics, and one had to do with what or who our inner or higher self would be. Are they older and wise, or childlike and carefree? What do they look like? My impression is that while there are, of course, several aspects to my inner being, my inner self, capital I, capital S, is older and wise. My higher self, if I may differentiate, is perhaps perpetually young and fresh. I get this image of a young person, not a child, but a young adult, who is actually an old soul, but with those memories, unlike me. I have no memory of past lives. In parentheses I wrote, or future lives. Shall we say, previous incarnations. So that's what I journaled about at the time, shortly after first reading this topic. And so to me, all of those names, the examples given, they denote something different. Inner self, higher self, natural self, carnal self. They all have a different personality of sorts in my mind. I think of them as different things, and I'm probably the most aware of my inner self, the one that I described as being older or wiser, because I think that's the one that I've heard the most about over the years. Not just the concept of an inner self, but like hearing from other people about my old soul, etc., etc. And that's the thing that I think of as my inner self. That's what I feel like is inside in some sense. As for the energy reservoir, growing up in a rural area, we have reservoirs, which are large bodies of water. So naturally this makes me picture a large body of water being the storehouse of my energy. If my personal energy reserves were illustrated as a large body of water, I imagine that it would be pulsing, constantly turning, not agitated, maybe even seemingly calm on the surface from time to time, but constantly in motion. Like we say, energy comes and goes in waves, as does water. And there are different types of energy, so I would imagine mine being all different colors, pulsing through each wave, each color, one after another. And at certain times, maybe one wells up stronger than the rest and takes precedence for a while, but eventually even that one is turned under by the next. Always moving forward, always cycling through. And it might not always be one right after the other. Sometimes it might be one or two fighting for their chance at the front before another one finally comes back that hasn't been there in a while. So it's not necessarily linear or cyclical, but just constantly moving. The water's always changing, always flowing, the song says. But I don't see it as a river. I see it as a large pool or a lake with the new energy, the new waves coming up from beneath it, sort of like a spring. Its gatekeeper depends on which aspect you think it is. What I think of as my inner self is, as I said, the older, wiser, the crone, essentially. She is always the one that comes to me when I'm trying to look deeper into myself and further into sort of what is already there. Whenever I look inside, what always comes to me is the crone. My higher self, by contrast, is eternally young, but also wise, with the knowledge and memory of all its experiences. able to be young and old at once because they remember all those things simultaneously. My natural self, which is an idea or a term that I've never used, but if I were to put something to that name, my natural self, I think, is the calmer, more peaceful side of me who goes with the flow and knows everything is as it should be. She doesn't make waves. She rides them. In a lot of ways, she is what I strive for in those cases where I get really riled up about things, and I wish that I could just smile and nod and let people go on about their day, trusting that they will come to their own conclusions in their own time. That's her. She enables me to do that. My carnal self, which is also a term that I've never used before, but again, if I were to put a face to the name, my carnal self makes the waves and takes no prisoners. She wants what she wants, and to hell with the rest. She is black-heeled boots clicking on the pavement. She is massive. She is wonder. She is smooth. I meet all of these parts of me at different times in my life, though they don't always have names. And I guess it depends on the day which one is keeping the reserves and which one is off gallivanting about in the quote-unquote real world. Awesome topic, Levi. Thank you very, very much for suggesting it. And thank you all to the rest of you for watching. I'll see you next time, which for me will be next month. Subs Week is next. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.